Give a big shout if you know who Tom Lehrer is.
Even if you've not heard of Tom Lehrer, you've encountered his work. If you've ever taken a jello shot, or your teacher played that Elements song for the class, if you've heard Bo Burnham's New Math or 2 Chainz Dope Peddler, then you've felt his influence in some way. There's a funny story about some of those, but we'll get to that in due time. Let's begin at the beginning. Tom was born April 9th, 1928, on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. He began studying piano at the age of 7 and spent his adolescence penning show tunes which, to my knowledge, are not available to the public. He was a child, so maybe it's not that important. His earliest song that we do have was written during his time as a math student at Harvard. A little in-joke for the people on campus, Fight Fiercely Harvard is essentially a battle cry for the little Lord Fauntleroys.
Won't it be peachy if we win the game? Oh goody, let's try not to injure them.
It would be the eventual opening track for his first album, Songs of Tom Lehrer. While I certainly wouldn't co-sign everything a wealthy 97-year-old Ivy League professor has said or done in his comedy career, for the most part it has aged remarkably well, considering comedy's tendency to age like milk. Most old comedy is baffling with just how deeply unfunny it is. Joke formulas get overdone at best, or seem cruel in retrospect at worst. I think we're all better off that his initial song idea, The Abortionist, was changed to The Old Dope Peddler, because abortion-based comedy can be dicey to say the least. Tom has even said that he wouldn't write a song like The Old Dope Peddler nowadays because of what a serious and widespread problem addiction is nowadays. Fair enough, it is a very serious and heartbreaking problem. Although I think the song is most popular today with drug enthusiasts like the Meat Puppets, who covered it in 2013, and 2 Chainz, who sampled the original on Dope Peddler. In 2012, 2 Chainz asked Lehrer for clearance on the sample, to which Lehrer wrote back, "As sole copyright owner of The Old Dope Peddler, I grant you permission to do this. Give my regards to Mr. Chainz, or may I call him 2. It's pretty cool of him to grant Mr. Chainz his permission. It's unclear to me if he really had a choice, because he did put all of his music and lyrics in the public domain in 2007. Does that include the recordings themselves? Am I going to get copy striked on this video? That's what I want to know. Up next, we have his song Lobachevsky.
Plagiarize, let no one else's work evade your eyes. Remember why the good Lord made your eyes, so don't shade your eyes, but plagiarize, plagiarize, plagiarize. Only be sure always to call it, please, research.
I think it's a charming and funny little tune, but bizarrely, it's named after a real scholar of mathematics who's never been accused of plagiarism. This is probably a consequence of his early work not really being intended for a wider audience. He said he chose the name basically because it sounds cool. It does roll off the tongue perfectly, but you can just make up a funny Russian name. You know, it's within our abilities. Maybe combine a bunch of vodka brands, throw in a couple Ovskis in there. I just don't get associating plagiarism with a real guy. Before his time as a satirist and professor, he worked at Los Alamos Scientific Laboratory, which developed nuclear weapons, but Lehrer was actually working as a spy for the secret NSA. It's 2 professions right there, nuclear arms or NSA spy. I don't know his level of enthusiasm, but he was drafted. So it was off to the military base in the mid-50s, and on the base there was a prohibition of alcohol. So Tom and a friend were determined to better learn how to sneak that alcohol into parties. One night, when experimenting with various alcohols and gelatins, they invented jello shots. It doesn't look or smell like alcohol because it's a container of gelatin, so they were able to sneak it right by the guards. Personally, I think jello shots are repulsive, another crime against humanity from Los Alamos. It will forever baffle me that jello shots caught on. Like, ordering jello shots at a bar is like ordering MREs at a restaurant. Why on earth can't you get ye flask? The war's over. You could drink booze. His time at Los Alamos influenced his writing a bit, with nuclear armament being a minor running theme in his music on tracks like The Wild West or Werner von Braun. His gallows humor tunes are meant to be jaunty and upbeat, but I've always loved Jeffrey Lewis's miserable cover of We Will All Go Together When We Go.
For if the bomb that drops on you gets your friends and neighbors too, there'll be no one left behind to grieve.
People were asking him at parties and nightclubs when he would perform if they can have copies of his music to take home and play for their friends, but no such thing existed. So he wanted to print off just as many as he needed to break even for the production costs. If he printed 400 records, he would break even by selling 300 of them. It was more than popular enough for him to tour a little bit and take a crack at a second LP. 1959's More Songs of Tom Lehrer contains most of the songs that he's known for today, like Poisoning Pigeons in the Park, Masochism Tango, and The Elements. The Elements is exactly what you would think it is. All the elements that were known to exist at the time, set to the Major General's song by Gilbert and Sullivan.
There's antimony, arsenic, aluminum, selenium, and hydrogen and oxygen and nitrogen and rhenium and nickel.
He wrote a version that takes place more recently with 118 elements on the periodic table, and one based on Aristotle's elements.
There's earth and air and fire and water.
I think a particularly interesting track that was well ahead of its time is Clementine, a reworking of the old folk song in different styles like Gilbert and Sullivan, Mozart, and Cole Porter.
Era leggera, e come un ferry, e sue shoes numero 9. Herring boxes, senza topses, sandale, per Clementina sì, per Clementina sì, per Clementina sandale, per Clementina sandale, per Clementina.
It's reminiscent of what is pretty much a whole genre here on YouTube, multi-genre covers, and as far as I can tell, this is the earliest multi-genre cover to exist, making him the progenitor of multi-genre covers, a music genre term I just made up. I do have a bone to pick with this song, though. He's not kidding when he says this.
The reason most folk songs are so atrocious is that they were written by the people. And if professional songwriters had written them instead, things might have turned out considerably different.
Until I read an interview where he said he was serious there, I just assumed he was satirizing what a rich, snobby guy would say about folk music, because I found that point of view so absurd. I always took the song as a critique of the idea that a simple song can't be a great song. But then again, folk music is my favorite genre. On that note, subscribe and ring the bell to catch some of the other music analysis videos that I have in the works. Likes and comments are also greatly appreciated.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
He released 3 more live albums after More Songs that rehashes the past repertoire, but it does have the benefit of crowd banter and a live feel. And then, nothing. Lehrer wasn't interested in forcing it, so when the ideas stopped coming, he just stopped writing. He didn't want the shtick getting old. His songs are all short, as comedy songs probably should be, and there aren't that many of them. So, he left the audience wanting more, and I respect that. He didn't try to force it. Until he did. A few years later, he wrote for a British political comedy sketch show. That was the week that was.
A heterosexual walks, or rather clumps in hobnail boots, and belted mac, alone. Not for him the joys of true comradeship. His energies are all spent in the pursuit of women. There is nothing he longs for more than a night out with the boys. But a night out with the boys in the truest, deepest sense is precisely what he can never enjoy. He's too busy making passes at the barmaid.
I can't seem to find any of the songs that we know for a fact to be written by Lehrer actually being sung on the show, and I can't really find much of the show at all. I've actually found audio of the show that exists where the footage is destroyed. Lehrer didn't want to perform on the show, but he also specified in his letters that they should be sung by anyone other than Nancy Ames. I guess other than Nancy Ames or him. They were, of course, sung by Nancy Ames. When T3 finally ended, Tom said the show's cancellation was well-deserved, but now he had a new record's worth of songs to record. He did a few live shows to tweak the set and eventually recorded his final LP, a live album called That Was the Year That Was, for some reason. Kind of shocked he didn't try to distance himself a little more. You know, he never liked the show. I don't have very much to say about this record, but I found this one anecdote quite interesting. When former UN's weapons inspector Hans Blick announced on Swedish radio that he thought the US invasion of Iraq wasn't in line with the UN Charter, he had them play this with the announcement.
Members of the Corps all hate the thought of war. They'd rather kill them off by peaceful means. Stop calling it aggression. Ooh, we hate that expression.
Beautifully put. Although I rather liked how Bush put it recently, too.
The decision of one man to launch a wholly unjustified and brutal invasion of of Ukraine.
Lehrer's work has gone on being covered, recontextualized, and sampled. He was influential on songwriters like Randy Newman and the guys from Steely Dan somehow. His songs have been sung in numerous languages, adapted for orchestra and a cappella group, and requested on Dr. Demento's show more than anyone else, except Weird Al. From a few small inside jokes, he left quite the mark on satirical music, with his music and lyrics being made copyright-free to the public for people to do covers or whatever they want with. I suspect his influence won't be slowing down anytime soon. His songs spread slowly but surely, like herpes rather than Ebola.
Ah, but I got it from Agnes, or maybe it was Sue, or Millie, or Billy, or Jilly, or Willie, or doesn't matter who. It might have been at the pub, or at the club, or in the loo, and if you will be my friend, then I might. Mind you, I said might. Give it to you.